Matt, welcome to the Playbook podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you are the founder of SETT. What are you building at SETT?
At Set, we really view the business as a functional pouch company, and our first product is what we believe is sort of the most compelling opportunity in that space specifically. And what that is a proprietary nicotine alternative. Essentially, it is a unique chemical composition. It's got a very interesting history to it, which basically delivers a lot of the sort of sensations and effects that people come to know and for better or worse like and enjoy with
Mhm.
nicotine, but with fewer downsides, particularly. And I can get into sort of the mechanisms of action here, but the product is formulated to be less habit forming, sort of better ingredient profile, no microplastics in the pouch, pH neutral, so it doesn't irritate your gums, sort of all of these things. But um, yeah, that's the first product into the, uninitiated consumer, I would say. If you've heard of Zyn, our product visually would look a lot like a Zyn, but the product is really positioned for how we think of it in kind of two buckets. So one of them would be the health conscious nicotine consumer. That's somebody that already uses and typically has a history of nicotine and tobacco usage. And then there's sort of this smaller number of consumers as well, which I would more call the nicotine curious consumer. And that's somebody that has a background more like myself and potentially yourself as well, where I didn't use these products previously, but I kind of came to understand some of the nootropic effects of nicotine, was interested in trying those products. And so for customers, for us in that bucket, they're not coming from using nicotine, but they're interested in those benefits and they're maybe looking for something that has fewer downsides, is a bit less stigmatized, that they feel better about using for one reason or another.
Yeah, could you talk more into the science of how the product actually works and helps with that kind of performance enhancement?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to share actually a little bit of history on it because it's pretty interesting. So the compound was actually first synthesized in the late 70s and early 80s, believe it or not, by Philip Morris scientists. And the history here is that at that time, uh, Philip Morris, PMI, and other big tobacco companies were concerned that nicotine might get banned altogether in the US. And so they set a bunch of their scientists to come up with alternatives that might be viewed more favorably from a health perspective. And as you well know, nicotine did not get banned. These companies got faced enormous fines. They had to put warning labels on the products. Excise taxes were introduced in many states, and so there were a lot of things that happened as a result of that. But nicotine was not banned, and so although PMI had developed and patented 20 or 30 different compounds with different levels of sort of promise to them, they didn't do anything with them.
Hmm.
And so 20 years later, these things rolled off a patent, as they do. I got introduced to this because I was looking for an investment in this space. And I found a group of scientists who were working on sort of furthering that research. And they were developing new, what you would call method of use and composition patents around what they thought were the most promising of these molecules. And very basically, what it is a synthetically derived molecule. It's made through a similar process to which you would derive synthetic nicotine. So it's essentially modified B vitamins.
Okay.
And what you end up with is a chemical which is substantially similar enough in its physical shape to that of nicotine and by proxy that of acetylcholine, that it actually does bind to the same what are called nicotinic acetylcholine receptors in your brain as nicotine. So same mechanism of action, and
Okay, interesting.
in an aggregate, very similar activity across most of these receptor types. But what part of what made me really lean into this opportunity and see that there was something interesting here was that um, when you dig a level deeper and you look across these different subtypes of receptors, the compound does not bind particularly effectively to what's called the alpha 6 receptor subtype, which is believed to drive a lot of physical dependence symptoms for nicotine. So think, there's different things that you can be addicted to, right? It's not the action of smoking, it's some of the underlying chemical dependence effects of this type of product, right? And although I can't make these types of claims today, there's also some emerging evidence we have around potentially better cardiovascular effects. And ultimately, the picture started to come together that, hey, this is not tobacco, it's not nicotine, it's not derived from tobacco or nicotine. This is a huge, huge market where, most solutions, if you want to call them that are served to consumers are really about cessation, trying to
Yeah.
get you to stop the behavior altogether. And people may disagree with this respectively, but I just don't sort of believe that that's really what people want or what's really sustainable for people over the long term. I look at it more through the lens of somebody's going to drink soda, and it's better if they drink soda without 50 grams of sugar in it,
Sure.
even if
Sure.
they do that 50% of the time, right?
Right.
And our view is the same with the nicotine and tobacco market, which is that people are going to they've used nicotine for millennia. They're going to continue to do so whether or not they believe it's good for them. And this can be a tool that helps them develop a healthier relationship with these types of products.
Super fascinating stuff. What are some of the crazy testimonials you've gotten so far of like how it's helping, whether it's athletes or just that kind of high performing audience?
So I'll describe kind of the most common archetype of experience with our consumers and then give you some more kind of pointed examples that I think are pretty interesting and compelling. And the most common archetype of, positive consumer experience we get is somebody that has a history of nicotine and tobacco usage. So maybe they started with dip or cigarettes in high school, and then, they got off of cigarettes, and then they were vaping and still dipping from time to time. And maybe now, most recently, they've been using Zyn and other oral nicotine pouch products. And when you talk to these people, some of them think nicotine's very unhealthy for them. Some of them have a more nuanced view, which is like, hey, I know, nicotine itself isn't going to kill me, but I sort of perceive these other downsides. And the sort of consistent trend with them is, regardless of where they are on that spectrum, they just don't like the relationship they have with these products. And so they say, hey, I used to be a 3 milligram guy and now I'm a 6 milligram guy. I used to use 3 or 4 pouches a day and now I use 15 or 20. And I know that sounds like a lot, but that is like shockingly common among
Hmm.
pouch users. Like that is like the meat of the bell curve is like close to a can a day of these types of products. And what customers tell us is when they use our product, they feel like they have more control over their habit in the sense that they can go back to using it somewhat intentionally. And again, more along the lines of when I sort of feel I need the boost in focus and energy, and maybe moving back towards that 3, 4, 5 times a day as opposed to just 2 every hour from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep. So that's kind of the most common archetype. And then some of the
Okay.
more interesting things, which I want to I want to preface around this because like I don't have a human study yet on cardiovascular effects for this compound, but we do get a lot of people commenting, particularly, people like you and me that wear sleep trackers, that when
Hmm.
they switch from nicotine to our product, which we call Ceretine is the name of the active, that they actually see a meaningful increase in HRV and sleep quality,
Wow. Okay.
which is not, um, again, I'm not a scientist, but when you think about, what we know about like high caffeine consumption, it's easy to believe that reducing your consumption of a stimulant like this would lead to those effects.
Do you have one in right now?
Yeah.
Okay. What? And then so yeah, tell me about the different like flavors and then the different milligrams.
So we offer a 3 and a 6, like Zen does. We'll probably introduce a 9 at some point, and that'll be the highest we go because a lot of people have asked for that. Right now we have a wintergreen, a raspberry lemon, and an unflavored. We're going to introduce at least 2 new flavors before the end of the year. I don't want to mention what those are yet until those are locked in. But we've definitely learned. Like I think these are great, but we've definitely learned like flavor variety is like inherently important. for customers in this space too, just because people use it all the time. Like these people just take them all day, right? And so, it's natural that if you only have one flavor in hand, you're going to get tired of it.
Right, for sure. So, where does your interest in human performance start? Where does that kind of passion stem from?
I think like a lot of people, self-interest, right? Um, I got into health and fitness at a sort of an unusually young age. So I played like every sport growing up. I loved all of them. Um, you know, on land, in water, whatever. And what I found was that, um, I wasn't like the biggest guy. Still not the biggest guy. Um, so water polo was tough. Football was tough. Basketball was tough. I mean, there were certain positions I was better suited to, certainly, but again, physically, maybe not like the most gifted in that respect. But I found that not only was I quite good at it, but I really enjoyed when we had to do like liners or like any type of like exercise, like the part of practice that like other people hated. I was like, oh, this is great. Like I'm
Pacer test kind of stuff?
yeah, again, like whatever, fitness component you'd imagine doing in football practice or basketball practice. Like I love that because I'm like, it's like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm the best at this. This is fun. And as a result of that, I kind of just like continued to get into fitness more and more. I ended up really focusing on running um, and sort of endurance sports through high school. So cross country, track, and Nordic skiing were my three sports throughout high school. So all the most unpleasant ones in
Hell yeah.
hindsight. And as a result of the fitness interest, I got really into nutrition as well. Started sort of delving into the world of supplements and ended up starting a business right before going to college, which I worked on through my first year of school and then ultimately before dropping out, called Momentous, which is in the supplement space. Obviously, business still around today and doing well. And obviously, there's like a whole much longer story about what that business does and why we started that company. But I would say this really compounded my interest in the space because again, it started with self-interest. But then you kind of get into this world where it's like self-confirming. It's like, oh, everybody else in this space is really interested in this too. And like you can like make money by like being really interested in this space and like knowing something about this and making products here. And that just starts an obsession, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then what industries are you most interested in right now that are kind of fascinating you?
I could answer that in a number of different ways. Like I'd say at the highest level, I just continue to be really interested in this market as an entrepreneur because I think of any trend or secular consumer trend or force of the century thus far, I would say that consumers' desire to be healthier has been one of, if not the most significant and durable trends.
Cool.
And I don't
Yeah.
see that changing anytime soon. So that's kind of probably the highest level answer. And then more than that, like I think as somebody that sort of starts new businesses, right, as opposed to, I'm nobody's going to hire me to come in and be the CEO of whatever Therabody now that it's at whatever scale or let alone Nike or something like that, right? Like I start businesses, I invest in businesses in this space at very, very early stages. And I think what you kind of have to look for there is things that are somewhat against conventional wisdom in the sense that I think fundamentally as a new business, of course there are exceptions to this, but just very generally speaking, you can't really win by doing the same thing that other people are doing. That's just not how physics work. And so you kind of have to find some flaw in conventional wisdom, something that people, maybe thought was a bad idea and actually turns out to be a good idea. Because if everybody thinks it's a good idea, then everybody else is doing it already, right? And that's part of what made me really attracted to this nicotine category, or maybe you want to call it, like some people now call it, like vice wellness, which is like, how do you make healthier sort of swaps and relationships around vices? Because like it or not, people are going to have vices. They have to have something generally. And part of what kind of made it really interesting to me as an entrepreneur is, again, that most people would look at it and say, that's, you know, you know, that's too stigmatized. That's, not something I want to be associated with. Those are all unhealthy products, all that type of thing. And so I actually found that really interesting when, what we do. I feel confident when you peel back and actually look very closely at what we're doing, that I think we're actually doing it for the right reasons, and we're trying to make people healthier, even though I know fully from experience that some non-zero percentage of people will always have a viscerally negative reaction to the idea.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Those people exist. Sweet man. Well, I'm excited to get into your flow stack. So, our flow stack is when our guests share the top practices and products helping elevate their game. What is in Matt's flow stack?
Question. My girlfriend and I started using the Hatch sleep alarm in the last year, and she really likes the wake up component of it. I'm kind of indifferent on that. I really like the it sort of just like reads a meditation to you, or a bedtime story, or whatever you want, right? But we always do the meditation before
Yeah.
bed. Um, I really have enjoyed that because it just like takes the discipline out of it. You just install this thing, and then it's like, okay, like if you want to turn on the white noise function, like it's gonna do this first, and it just forces you to do that before you go to bed. And I found that really helpful for kind of calming my busy mind at night. So that's
Yeah,
been a really helpful
huge fan
thing
of
for me.
Hatch.
Yeah, that's been a really helpful thing for me. Um, and then, I mean, I have a bunch of different products I'd use. Like, I would say the other thing that's like been like kind of a game changer for me, which you would really appreciate, is a runner over the last, not even like year necessarily, but probably like last 3 years, has been kind of like a something I've needed to actually like work on implementing, has just been better fueling for
Mm-hmm.
endurance training, and sort of really buying into and understanding and then actually putting into practice, like aggressively consuming carbs during endurance training in a way that I just didn't. Because you know this, right? Like that was, again, was not the wisdom, or the what we were sort of taught growing up, right? um, you were taught that you could only absorb a very small amount of carbohydrates during exercise, and that it was actually, better to train your body to function with less sort of exogenous fuel during those training sessions. And I just remember during high school and after college, you do long runs, and I just feel sick afterwards. It was just like, it's like I was hit by a bus, you know? And it's not that I'm not tired after those sessions now, but it's like I can still have a normal day.
Right.
Not only do I like recover drastically better, but like I can still have like a normal like afternoon and day, in a way that like it's like totally changed like my weekends, and like the amount of energy I have during the day, and like how much volume I can tolerate, which like also like very closely correlates to like life satisfaction and happiness. Again, as you can appreciate. So I'd say those are kind of like some of the bigger unlocks. And then I don't know, I have some products I like, which I'm certainly happy to talk about.
I definitely want to get into more of your products. Did you have a favorite fueling gel or product during your longer runs?
I like the goo Roctane.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, because I just find it's I just don't find it's like too sweet. Even at whatever 250 calories a bottle or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just very used to that product. I'm sure there's other great ones too, but I'm just very used to that one. Yeah. What about you?
I am obsessed with Maurten, so I just keep it clean with the Maurten gels, and then Untapped. I'm loving the Untapped, just pure maple syrup. Been keeping it as
Nice.
clean as possible.
I love that. Love that.
And then Cadence just came out with some cool ones. I'm a big fan of the Cadence hydration drinks. I like their kind of core hydration drinks. Kind of just tastes like a salty Sprite. And then they came out with their new core bars, which I've been enjoying their kind of bars. If I want to get some solids in.
Hmm. I haven't tried their products yet. I've actually like had really good results from red yeast rice over the
Cool.
last 6 months as a supplement.
Okay. Cool.
Um, I have, I mean, I don't get my blood tested every month, but like a couple times a year, right? And despite what you would think is a very like active, fit person, I don't mind saying like I've historically had like very high LDL, not
Mm-hmm.
like very, very high, but like not in absolute terms, but like way higher than like the late 20s, like endurance athlete should have, right? And I've actually seen like pretty significant improvements and reductions in that number, where really like that's the only thing I can point to is the introduction of that product. I haven't made any other significant lifestyle changes or anything like that. And essentially it's like a weak statin is the way to think of
Okay.
it. It's obviously naturally occurring, but that's basically what it's like.
Cool. What about gear? Do you have any like training gear, shoes? What's your go-to training
Mm.
gear?
Um, I don't remember what they're called, but I really like the Hoka running shorts I have. I've got like 5 of them now. Um, I had like, I go through phases. Like I had like everybody does. I had mostly like Nike gear growing up, and then like in college, like I had like a lot of Tracksmith stuff, and I still like the Tracksmith shorts, but like these the Hoka shorts I have are the best running shorts I've ever had. They are so nice and so light, and like they dry so quickly. Yeah, so I have like at least 5 of those that I rotate through to whatever extent I can. So that's been a really great uh, one for me. Um, what else gear wise? I mean, I'd be interested to talk with you about sleep trackers a little bit because like I'm a big proponent of the Oura
Okay.
because, and maybe you've had a different experience, but I've tried wrist-based heart rate detection with multiple GPS running brands and Whoop at least 3 times throughout the history of that business.
Yeah.
Um, and like having, you know, been in school in Boston, things like that was like, tried it very early on, tried it like within the last 18 months, tried it a couple times in between then. I just found like I just never found the heart rate data anywhere near what I knew it actually was, just based on
Yeah.
perceived exertion. I just found it frankly useless.
I'm training for my first 100 miler. So first 100 miler will be next summer. So I haven't kind of got up to where I'll really need to be, tracking my heart.
Oh, yeah. I mean, perceived exertion is probably fine there. You got to keep it easy, anyways.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Um, anyways, so I've like I would say like I've developed like quite a strong preference for this device over the years, having gone through multiple of them. And then the other
So,
thing I found with some
okay.
of the other sleep trackers is like I've never in my life had a 100 sleep score versus with Aura, which like to me builds some amount of credibility that like like it could always be better. And with Whoop and other sleep trackers, I found like basically if I was just in bed for the amount of time that it wanted me to be, it gave me like 100.
Yeah. I have never had 100 sleep, but I've definitely had some 100 recoveries where I could see how just the duration in bed could affect that.
How like um this is actually a criticism I've had of Aura because I would say that the sleep data for me um I find correlates very tightly with how I like perceive it.
Okay.
Like I generally can take a pretty darn good guess at what the number would be before I looked.
Yeah.
Not on HRV, but like again, like sort of like
Restorative
duration,
stuff.
quality, that type of thing. Um,
Okay.
what I can't typically guess is like the recovery score. That I'm typically don't have a great guess on. Do you find that that's like pretty tightly tied to how you're actually perceiving your sort of
I think
status?
I think it is. I am not as consistent as I'd like to be. I feel like I average like I definitely miss at least one day a week not having it charged just because that's me right now. But my girlfriend has the Aura, and I know she loves she's a huge fan of the Aura ring.
It's interesting. I think Aura is more popular with women.
Yeah, more popular with women, and I definitely feel like it's more. I feel like if you're buying something for sleep, like it's definitely the Aura. I don't think Whoop's very reliable when it comes to sleep.
What's the 100 miler you signed up for?
I'm doing the Leadville 100.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that'll be my first. So I did my about 3 years ago. I listened to a podcast, My First Million podcast with Ken Rideout and the My First Million team, and Ken had the same right hip surgery he was talking about that I had like a year and a half before, and my doctors were like, "You probably shouldn't be a runner." I done track and soccer in high school, and that was my like previous athletic thing. But right when I heard that podcast, I signed up for the La Jolla Half Marathon. Did the La Jolla Half Marathon, and then a year later signed up for the LA Marathon. Did the LA Marathon, and then this past January I did my first ultra, which was the Avalon 50 around Catalina Island. So that was my first one, and
Wow.
then next year I got to going to do my first 100. I've just been kind of training now, helping one of my buddies who just did the Saddles 100 last weekend, and
Well, good for you.
yeah, just helping him train and getting ready for when the day comes.
I got no interest in 100.
No interest.
Not at the moment. No.
Where do you where are you based right now?
I live in Marin County, just north of San Francisco.
North of San Francisco. Okay, I was gonna say next time you're in Los Angeles, let's definitely get some. Let's get a 10 to 15 miler in for sure.
It'd be fun. Yeah, I mean, I'm down there somewhat regularly.
What are you still actively trail running?
We mostly run on trails because that's what my girlfriend really prefers. And then every now and then, so mostly when I'm racing, I do triathlons. And
Okay,
then like when I'm training for one of those, then like I like sort of force the balance more towards the road. Like the compromise generally is like we'll do long runs like on trails, long runs and easy runs on trails, but then like I do have to go fast. Like, every now and then too. So I need some flat ground.
for sure. Yeah, no, you'll love also my another product I didn't mention. I don't know if you've tried the Honey Plus energy gels.
Honey Stinger, or is it the honey plus
No, no,
caffeine?
it's the Honey Plus It's Honey Plus is the brand name, but it's just like pure honey, electrolytes, little caffeine. But yeah, Honey Plus is another great brand to go with the Untapped, and then obviously the Mortons.
Yeah, I'll try some of those. I'm really not actually very picky about uh like gels uh, for whatever reason. Like I'm lucky that I think like my like generally if it's like just sugar, like my stomach will tolerate it pretty well,
Yeah, yeah.
which has been fortunate.
Yeah, I'm normally not picky, but recently I've just been trying everything I can, and yeah, finding what I think is the best.
All matters if you're gonna eat, you know, 20 of them over the course of a day. You better like it, right?
Well, yeah, better like it, and yeah, seriously, you got to be clean. Cool. Anything else to add to your flow stack?
Um, well, I'll just run you through like quickly, like I'm not going to say any of these are miracles necessarily, but just if people are curious, like I, ran a supplement business. This is what I take every day. I take uh in the morning ashwagandha and rhodiola. Then I take 1,000 milligrams of the red yeast rice and omega 3s in the morning, and then at night, typically I'm taking um uh 300-ish milligrams magnesium glycinate, theanine, another 1,000 milligrams of the red yeast rice. I've tried a little bit of metformin as well to see how I feel on that. So I've been using 500-ish milligrams of metformin generally at night, provided I don't have like a hard workout the next morning. Um, and then definitely a coffee drinker. And obviously, like I use SETT quite regularly as like a stimulant. And the way I use that is I try to use it like I try to not start using it until like my third or fourth meeting of the day, and then shut it down like around dinner time. And then I try not to use it too much on the weekends either. Because as you
Okay.
know, right, like you develop a sort of tolerance to stimulants.
Right.
And so like if you really want to get the best effects out of it, like don't just like hit the button 24/7, right?
Where can people find you and as well as Set?
Well, most importantly, set, I would say, set is get set spelled with two T's. So GETSETT.co. And then same on Instagram at get set. Momentous is at live.momentous and livemomentous.com. No funny spelling or anything.
Sweet, man. This has been incredible. Excited for our audience to learn about two new amazing brands, and we'll have to do this again in a few years.
Yeah, it was great to meet you finally, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in LA sometime. Where in LA
Awesome.
are you?
Beverly Hills area.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Where do you run from there?
I have to go up to Griffith. I typically do Griffith Observatory, so I just run up the Hollywood sign.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, cool.
yeah.
Cool. I haven't done that before.
Yo, it's amazing, man. Yeah, if you haven't done it, it's amazing. It's I have a nice 9 to 11 mile route, and then a nice 19 to 21 mile route, but it's beautiful.
Nice. Yeah, I'm almost always staying in Santa Monica, so I just like, time crunched. I just like
Yeah,
back and
yeah.
forth on the boardwalk.
I was gonna say you're probably up. I was gonna say the Point, Zuma, or out by Malibu. Also, those trails you can't beat those trails on the ocean.
Yeah, that's definitely on my list. I haven't been able to do that either. Well,
Awesome,
anyways, I don't want to take more of your time, Alec. It was very nice of you to have me on.
awesome. Cheers, Matt.